Peru News Today. All you need to know about Peru.
Iran launched a direct attack against Israel with nearly 300 drones and missiles. In an unprecedented action, Iran launched an attack with 200 drones and missiles from its territory against Israel, in retaliation for the deadly attack on its consulate in Damascus, for which it blamed Israel. Most of the drones and missiles were intercepted by the Israeli air defense system, supported by the United States. President Joe Biden said his support for Israel is strong. So far, only one 10-year-old girl has been seriously injured, while the army said that citizens in the most affected areas no longer needed to stay in shelters after a day of high tension. Fearing an imminent escalation of violence in the Middle East, the United Nations Security Council will meet urgently on Sunday, while Israel studies how it will respond to the Iranian attack, and Tehran has promised more defensive measures in case it is attacked. Iran launched an attack with 200 drones and missiles against Israel, the Israeli army reported, which said most were intercepted. According to reports from the Israeli army, only a 10-year-old girl is seriously injured as a result of the attack, while a military base in the south of the country would have suffered minor damage. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard confirmed the sending of drones to Israel, in response to the deadly attack against the Iranian consulate in Syria in early April, for which Iran blames Israel, which has not commented on the matter. Israel's Security Cabinet authorized Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to make decisions on a response to Iran, local media. Netanyahu held a telephone conversation with U.S. President Joe Biden, who promised an ironclad commitment to Israel's security and against attacks from Iran. Iran promised new defensive measures to safeguard its interests in the event of military aggression against it, and directly warned the United States not to get involved in the conflict. On Sunday, the UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting, requested by Israel. Biden claims U.S. helped Israel shoot down almost all Iran's drones, missiles. Through a statement from the White House, President Joe Biden reiterated his country's support for the defense of Israel against the Iranian offensive, and assured that this Sunday he will convene the G7 to coordinate a common diplomatic response. Biden, who interrupted his rest in Delaware due to the escalation in the Middle East, praised the Israeli defense system and made it clear that it had the effective support of Washington. Thanks to these deployments and the extraordinary skill of our military, we help Israel to shoot down almost all incoming drones and missiles. The Middle East is filled with uncertainty over Israel's possible response against Iran. After the unprecedented Iranian attack on Israeli airspace, neighboring governments, such as Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Syria, have expressed their concern about the possible intensification of violence that could occur between the two weapons powers in the region. Benjamin Netanyahu affirmed that Israel was prepared for a possible Iranian attack, boasting of American support for his nation and repeating the war mantra that his government has used since the intensification of its offensive in Gaza: "Whoever harms us, we will do harm." An Israeli response to the Iranian attack seems imminent. However, the big unknowns left by Iran's attack are what this response will be, what dimensions will it have, and, if it arrives, when will it occur? UN Security Council schedules emergency meeting. The United Nations executing agency announced a change in the agenda for April 14, confirming an emergency meeting to address the most recent crisis in the Middle East. The meeting was requested by the Israeli representative at the United Nations. The Iranian attack is a serious threat to global peace and security, and I hope that the Council will use all means to take concrete measures against Iran, Gilad Erdan, an Israeli diplomatic representative, wrote in his X profile. More than 200 Iranian projectiles were repelled by the Iron Dome, no fatalities reported. In the most recent violent onslaught in the Middle East, Iran launched 200 aerial projectiles, including drones and missiles, towards Israel's borders, with affected areas throughout the territory: Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank to the south, and the Golan Heights, Nevatim, Dimona and Eliyot to the north. Although the Israeli army announced that it managed to repel almost all the projectiles with its sophisticated anti-aircraft defense system, called Iron Dome, local authorities reported that a 7-year-old girl is in serious condition. The U.S. reinforces its military support for Israel. Washington has remained very attentive to the Iranian offensive against Israel. After returning to the White House on an emergency basis to address the crisis in the Middle East, Joe Biden confirmed that, after a meeting with his cabinet, the American commitment to the defense of Israel is iron. For his part, the representative of the Republican majority in the House of Representatives, Steve Scalise, confirmed that there will be a change in the debate agenda within the lower house of the legislature in order to build a space for discussion on a new law in support of Israel. The House of Representatives strongly supports Israel, and there must be consequences for this unprovoked attack, Scalise wrote in his X profile. Similarly, the U.S. Embassy in Israel published a statement in which it called on all Washington diplomatic personnel in the country to protect themselves until further notice, saying that it could impose prohibitions on officials and their families to be able to travel through Jerusalem and the occupied West Bank. Iran says it will apply defensive measures to any actor that affects its interests. The Iranian foreign minister sent a strong warning to members of the international community, especially Israel's Western allies, stating that Tehran will not hesitate to take defensive measures against all those who affect its interests. Iran, if necessary, will not hesitate to take new defensive measures to safeguard its legitimate interests against any military aggression and illegal use of force, the Iranian minister said. Furthermore, Iran's Revolutionary Guard was even more emphatic in referring to the U.S. case, stating that any offensive move by Washington or Tel Aviv will result in a proportional and reciprocal response from Iran. The sound of explosions reaches Jerusalem. Israel claims they are downed drones. Leave us your comment and subscribe to continue growing, and follow us on our social networks, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram and TikTok.
Peru News Today. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.